The morning sky over western London hung low with thick gray clouds as the grass airfield at RAF Northolt slowly came to life. Ground crews moved across the damp field between aircraft bays, their boots wet with dew as they checked ammunition belts and connected fuel hoses to waiting fighters. Along the edge of the airfield stood rows of Hawker Hurricane fighters, silent for the moment, but ready to launch at a moment's notice. Inside the operations room, controllers leaned over a large map of southern England covered with markers representing radar contacts detected across the English Channel. Several of those markers were moving steadily toward the British coast, forming yet another German raid during the intense weeks of the Battle of Britain. By the summer of 1940, the situation looked grim for Britain. After the fall of France, the United Kingdom stood alone against Nazi Germany, whose leader, Adolf Hitler, believed that the Royal Air Force was close to collapse. German strategy depended on gaining air superiority before launching Operation Sea Lion, a massive amphibious invasion of the British Isles. But the RAF still had one advantage: a defensive network of radar stations known as Chain Home, which allowed controllers to detect incoming aircraft formations more than 100 miles away and direct fighter squadrons into position at the perfect moment. Among those squadrons preparing to defend Britain was a unit the German command had not fully considered: No 303 Polish Fighter Squadron, named in honor of the Polish national hero Tadeusz Kościuszko. Stationed at RAF Northolt and flying Hurricane fighters powered by powerful Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, these pilots quickly demonstrated exceptional combat ability. The Hurricane, though sometimes overshadowed by the more famous Spitfire, was a sturdy and heavily armed aircraft equipped with 8.303 caliber Browning machine guns capable of unleashing devastating firepower. When the squadron first entered combat on August 30, 1940, radar stations had detected German aircraft assembling over the Pas-de-Calais, and RAF controllers quickly scrambled fighter units across southern England. Pilots of 303 Squadron ran to their aircraft as engines roared to life and Hurricanes lifted off into the cloudy sky. Soon they spotted dark formations of German bombers approaching England under escort from Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters. The Polish pilots immediately dived from above and behind their preferred attack position, firing long bursts of machine gun fire at close range. Tracer rounds streaked across the sky as bombers began trailing smoke and breaking formation, while escort fighters rushed to intercept. The sky quickly turned into a chaotic battlefield of twisting aircraft and falling debris. But when the Polish pilots returned to base, their victory claims were remarkable. Within days, 303 Squadron had established a reputation as one of the most aggressive and effective units in fighter command. Their combat style differed from many RAF pilots. Rather than firing from a distance, they often closed to extremely short range before shooting, ensuring maximum damage. Several pilots became particularly successful, including Witold Urbanowicz, who provided calm leadership, and Josef František, a Czech pilot serving with the squadron, who became one of the highest-scoring Allied pilots of the entire battle. By early September, the Luftwaffe intensified its attacks, targeting RAF airfields and industrial facilities in an attempt to destroy fighter command. Then, on September 7th, Germany launched a massive daylight assault on London, sending hundreds of bombers toward the city. RAF fighters scrambled across southern England, including the Hurricanes of 303 Squadron, which attacked the bomber formations as they approached along the River Thames. Although many bombs still fell on the city, starting fires across the East End docks and marking the beginning of the Blitz, the RAF remained operational. Just over a week later, on September 15, 1940, later known as Battle of Britain Day, Germany attempted another massive air assault on London. Radar again detected the incoming formations early, allowing RAF fighters to intercept them in coordinated attacks. The Polish pilots of 303 Squadron closed in at extremely short range and opened fire, tearing through bomber formations and sending multiple aircraft crashing toward the English countryside. German losses that day were severe, and the Luftwaffe failed to overwhelm British defenses. By the end of September, despite joining the battle relatively late, 303 Squadron had achieved one of the highest victory totals of any RAF fighter unit, destroying more than 120 German aircraft during the campaign. Their success forced many British pilots who had initially doubted the foreign squadron to acknowledge their extraordinary skill and determination. As autumn progressed, German losses in daylight battles became too severe, forcing the Luftwaffe to shift toward night bombing instead. Without air superiority, Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain, was postponed and eventually abandoned. The Royal Air Force had survived one of the most critical battles of the war, and the pilots of 303 Squadron had played a major role in that victory. Even after the battle ended, the squadron continued flying combat missions over occupied Europe throughout the rest of the war. Yet when the conflict ended in 1945, many Polish pilots faced a difficult choice because Poland had fallen under Soviet influence. Rather than return to a homeland now under a different political system, many chose to remain in Britain and start new lives there. Today, the story of 303 Squadron remains one of the most powerful examples of courage and determination during the Second World War. These were pilots who had already lost their country, crossed half of Europe to continue fighting, and then helped defend another nation in its darkest hour. When the hurricanes of 303 Squadron climbed into the skies from RAF Northolt during the summer of 1940, they carried more than fuel and ammunition. They carried the determination of a nation that refused to disappear.